What's up, guys? Scott here from Chernobyl Studios, and I have the absolute pleasure to announce the brand new amp simulator from Audiority. But before I tell you what it is, check out how it sounds. Alright, by the title of the video, you already knew what it was, but you didn't know how it sounded. So, introducing the Solidus Randy 250. It's actually two different amplifiers. We got the top one and the bottom one. Fantastic. Video over. Get back. Just kidding. So the first one is the RG100ES. This one right here. Yes, that one. The one that Dimebag used on Cowboys from Hell. That's the same amp. But the second one is interesting as well because you essentially have two different eras of guitar ideas and tones. So the first one, Dimebag one, is definitely 80s. Okay, there's definitely a sound there that just it's stuck in that time period. The one from the late 2000s, however, definitely more modern sounding. Two very distinct tone types that we can get. We're going to talk about both of them, but right now, this is the manual. Okay, this is an amazing. This is an amazing thing. You can read this actually. You know, if you open it. I hope you're sensing the sarcasm here, guys. I'm just really kidding. But a lot of what I'm going to show you here today in this video is coming right from this manual because I read it so that I could learn how to use these two amp simulators. Okay, but everything is in here from plugin activation to where the file locations are when you install it, paths. Explaining what the plugin does, how to find things, all right, every aspect of the plugin chain here, which we will go over, all right, but it's all here in case something in the video didn't quite make sense and you want to go over it again. So that's the manual. It's an awesome thing. Let's jump into Keybase here. Let me show you the amps. Okay, so just for this keeping things really compact and easy to look at, I have just the guitars visible here. Same thing if I open the mix console, just so we don't lose track of what we're trying to do here. Okay, now I have basically I recorded this 4 times and then I duplicated it so that I could show both of the different amp simulators. Okay, and you should notice right away that I quad tracked it and I have 2 pairs going to a different bus. That's because unfortunately you just can't send 4 DIs to a single plugin. However, this does mean that stereo processing is a thing, and it's actually automatic. So if you just had the one track and you plop this on there, it would automatically act as a mono track, no problem. But you can put this on a group or a bus track and run 2 hard pan DIs through it, boom, stereo processing automatically takes place. It's fantastic, and I'm a huge fan of stereo processing. I think in this day and age, pretty much every amp simulator needs to be able to do that. Helps to cut down CPU and it's just faster and easier to work on. All right. So let's look at the plugin here very quickly. I do want to point out that if you click Audiority here, you're going to get some more settings to include changing the size. All right, and a bright or dark mode. Just wanting to point out that that's there. Okay. Up here, HQ means high quality, and then this is preset stuff. Here are the presets. There's a bunch of artist presets. Mine are in here. They are denoted by SE, Scott Elliott, that's me. And we're actually going to look at 2 presets that I created here for both the ES here and the 150. So when we're looking at this thing, right, this is our main, this is the main thing we need to keep an eye on down here. This is our chain. Red means it's enabled, gray means disabled in the dark mode. Now, if you right-click on this, you can enable or disable without having to go to the actual page and click the put switch. You don't need to do that. So you can stay on the amp And you can go back and forth between the EQ or overdrive or the gate just by right-clicking on everything, okay? Pro tip right there, all right? To switch between the different amps, just click this button here that says swap. It'll swap over to the RH150. Same thing here, swap. It'll swap back over to the RG100. So let's go a little bit more into detail about this amp simulator. Let's just solo this for now. I don't want anything else playing, and let's listen to this. So you can definitely hear, you know, the Dimebag Darrell tone characteristics there. It's not his tone, of course. I didn't try to recreate it, but you can. That's there. You can definitely understand where that solid state mid. Yeah, I don't want to call it warmth because you guys will kill me, but you can just feel that and hear that it's a bit different than a regular tube amp. All right, and the one thing about this amp that you absolutely have to keep in mind is that you have to jack input gain. I mean, let me show you what I mean. So if I disable the EQ duo and the overdrive, all right, do keep in mind that gain is at 10. This is what's going to happen. Actually, let me turn this off so we'll just have the 2 tracks. Okay, so I have gain is at 10, no overdrive, no input gain. Let's press play, see what happens. All right, so that's what's going to happen. You're going to get a super crunchy tone, right? Crunch is good, but I know a lot of you are not looking for that tone. You are looking for the balls to the wall, massive metal gain tone. So that's where the input gain really comes into play. Thankfully, Audiority has got you covered. So essentially, they have recreated to a degree, you know, the same kind of steps that Dimebag would have taken to really jack his input gain. It's not the exact same thing. But I mean, you have the tools here now where you can shape the DI and input gain to the amp, okay? Plus an overdrive pedal. We'll get to that in a second, okay? But here you can really shape the sound of your DI track going into the amp. And you can increase the input gain, and you also have a parametric here where you can increase the EQ even further or do more modifications, all right? And then you have a gate, which you'll definitely need because you're going to be increasing the input gain. And then an overdrive pedal. Now, the wild drive here is unique in that, okay, it's based off of a overdrive pedal. You may understand the design here and this name right here. But this attack knob is not included. And actually what this attack knob does, obviously it increases the attack of the guitar transient essentially. But what that means in terms of musicality is it thins out your tone and makes the guitar sound more like a giant guitar, so more glassy. And I'll actually show you what that sounds like. So here it's really loose, right? Really, really loose. And it just tightens and tightens and tightens and becomes very glassy. So there's a lot of utility here. You can really change the sound of the guitar, and that's what this is all about, okay? This is not open up the amp, crank the gain, put on the channels, and go to town. There is so much to this, so much potential for you to really shape what your guitar sounds like. So you put the time in this to really be able to come up with a tone that's unique to you, okay? Tone pot notwithstanding, we also have an out EQ. So if you have other Audiority plugins, you'll understand what this is already. This is a great way to shape the tone at the little last bit before you start doing processing inside of the DAW. Of course, this is all dependent on the type of cab IR that you pick, okay? Lots of great cab IRs included here. It's all in the manual. You have Dr. Bonkers, Redwirez, you even got some Audiority ones in here. But this is a fantastic IR loader, a huge upgrade from the very, very first version from the first Audiority plugin. Really love this, but you can change the air amount, air frequency, the resonance. You can really just start to mess with how the cabinet will react with the amp and what kind of sound you'll get. You can pan, you can delay here. This is the delay knob if you have two impulses that are not in phase with each other. You can do a high pass, a low pass. So there's a lot you can do here before it even leaves this plugin and goes into the DAW. So that's the power of this interface, and I actually quite like how everything is just in line here like this. It makes a lot of sense to me. So the tone pots themselves, I'm not really talking about them a lot because while they do change what the guitar tone sounds like, the magic is really happening in this plugin here. Not plugin, but this stage here. Let me show you what I mean. So even just having this at 12 o'clock and disabling it and removing that input gain, we're already significantly changing the distortion, the saturation of the signal. Well, we crank it. Now we're getting the tones that we would expect to get. Now, you can also change the low, mids, and highs of the DI individually. So for example, when I created this tone, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, some more high mids might be cool just to kind of fill out the tone a little bit. So this is what it used to sound like. And you can hear that you get that little high-end attack on the mids. It's especially apparent with this particular section here. We go back. Yep. And then you can do the same thing with, I mean, from 600 to 10K. You know, for example, let's do like 3K, see what happens. It's almost like a wah pedal almost. So that's where the power of this particular amp simulator comes in. It's not in the amp itself. While you will get the Randall crunch and that unique voice tone from the amp, this is where it all begins right here. And this is where you're going to have to sit and spend some time figuring out how your guitar reacts with the amp simulator. I would highly recommend just cranking the input gain, right? Selecting a cab impulse that you like, and then going to the amp and starting to understand where do you like the tone pot positions. Okay, and then from there you can ask questions like, what is the tone missing? What could I do in the front of the amp that could help clean up the tone, make it have more attack, more mids, be more interesting, you know, those kind of questions. And you can actually do that right here in the plugin with these EQ pots, and it's fantastic. On top of the fact that you can also drive with this overdrive even more, change the brightness, and change the attack of how the guitar is going to sound. So these are really the elements that you're going to need to use to really make this amp work for you, because it's going to be more than just simply loading this up and putting it on channel 2 and then pulling out the extra gain stage. And then with this one right here, it was on the treble, I think on the actual unit, you popped it out. But here, and then all the gain, and then, you know, it's not going to work as you would imagine it to, okay? So that's really the power, actually, of this amp, because even though it is a Randall amp, you have the characteristics of the dime bag tone, but you can totally come up with your own voice and your own, you know, your own signature, which I have essentially created the guitar tone that I like to hear with this amp by being able to use the EQ and the overdrive and the amp tone pots, and then the out EQ, which is huge. All right, and that's the result that I have. Also using the Crank Legend cab. So I mean, it's a fantastic amplifier. I love playing with this. So the best way I could describe this is it's very vintage sounding, super vintage, definitely like old school death metal. Okay. Now let's jump on over and actually listen to the other one, the RH150. Let's see what this sounds like. Let's put this in the mix, actually. We should hear everything. Yep, so let's go ahead and listen to this. considerably more modern, right? Considerably, definitely a tighter type of a tone, and we're getting into that recognizable 2000s modern Randall sound, where we've gotten away from sort of the vintagey super scoop. This is still scoop sounding, but it has, I don't want to call it a glassy attack, but it just has that really aggressive modern punch to the face. All right, now the plugin is exactly the same. Let's just solo this, but we'll mute this one, so we just have two. Excellent. All right, and then let's open this. So this is, again, my preset nuclear fire rhythm. And, okay, guys, this tone stack on the actual amp sim is freaking weird. All right, it really is weird. I didn't even use the EQ on this one because I was just so amazed by the tone stack itself. I had a good time with it. I'll show it to you. So I picked different impulses this time. Wanted a different sound. All right. The EQ is even different, so everything's different here. But man, I have to talk about this tone stack here. All right, just listen to this. So it's just doing more than increasing the bass of the amp. It's like completely changing the sonic quality of the tone. Now, like, listen to the middle. I don't even know what it's doing. But like, you change the, it's like, okay, you would think that you're just adding or subtracting mids into the tone, but this is totally strange tone sculpting here. Okay, like, that's fine. All right, and then with the reverb and the level knob and the gain structure. So, I mean, wow, this is totally different than the other tone stack, which is pretty vanilla. It does what you would think it would do, but this one is so strange, and it's so interesting to play with. Let me actually just go back and put that back together. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's so totally different from what I've used before. And I really, you know, if I sat here and played with the EQ Duo a bit more. So even just those two slight EQ moves, it's completely changing the guitar tone. And like, I'm already getting lost in listening and thinking of what I could possibly get this to sound like. But the main thing that I really love about this is that it's different. Okay, as much as I love all the other amps out there, I have to give it up to Randall because they have a very unique sound. And I'm really enjoying what Audiority has done here because of giving us the option to use two amps that really are not really used that much anymore, to give us the flavor that we can change what, you know, our sound and what we want to, you know, what we want to do with, you know, what our music sounds like. I just love the way that sounds. I think that sounds really brutal, very modern. It just sounds different. It sounds like you just get punched in the face. Yeah, I absolutely enjoy it. So I'll go between the two different amp simulators now, or the two different variants. Don't try to compare like which one sounds better than the other. Just listen to the two different voices that you get from the two different eras, essentially, from the late 80s and then the late 2000s. Just think of like there's a 20-year difference. and all the tone shaping possibilities that you have. Yeah, I love it. All right, guys, so that's the Audiority Solidus Randy 250. Absolutely loved playing with this. Making the presets were totally fun. I'm going to be using this a lot more. I'm really loving these options here with the input boost and the parametric EQ. It's limitless in my opinion what kind of sound you can come up with. Really love it. All right, so links down in the description. Go ahead and pick up your copy. Thanks for watching the video. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.